Shall we get started? Oh, you guys always start the recording before I even know. Okay. So welcome everyone to GBM. If you don't know, GBM stands for General Body Meeting, and it's for all of our general members. These are our social medias, like I've said before. Next. Hang on. You guys are covering it. Okay. Next, we'll be talking about our agenda. We have to talk about past and upcoming events, and then we have our guest speakers. So our guest speakers today are here. Their names are Patrick and Eva from CAF. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Kelly?
So this is our event schedule. So we have our game night on November 12th with PATSA, which is the Preoccupational Therapy Student Association. And then we'll be having a trivia night with a bunch of student organizations on December 1st. And if you have any other event ideas, let us know. Or if you're in any other clubs and would like to participate in our trivia night, just give us an email and let us know.
Yeah, game night, trivia night. Caroline?
All right, so we had our Chipotle fundraiser on Monday, and we had a pretty good turnout. We made $57, and that's pretty good considering the current circumstances. So thank you to everyone who came to support.
Yay. Again, we have our game night coming up. Taylor, do you want to talk about this?
Muted. All right, so we are going to be playing Among Us. Again, like Kelly said, it's going to be with Patsa. We were thinking of combining, if we were combining like our general members and our e-board members to all play this game. So it'd be really cool to see y'all out there. We have like the meeting room ID. We're all going to be on one Zoom, and then we would like go into breakout rooms and play like in individual games within that way.
Really quickly, Tony asked in the chat if we weren't able to make it to the Chipotle fundraiser, can we still send donations? Of course you can. We'll always take money. Okay, trivia night. Taylor?
Oh, I thought Remy was going to talk about this.
Sorry. Remy?
Yeah, so we're having a trivia night, and we're including any organizations that are from ENS. If you want to have your organization participate and it wasn't listed, that's going to be FPTO, POTSA, CORE, SNO, and SNC are all the ones that we have contact with right now. But if I didn't just list your organization and you want to bring in more friends from that organization, just let us know and we'll get in contact with them. It's going to be on December 1st at 7 p.m. This QR code right here goes to the sign-up sheet. So if you already know who you want your team to be, it's going to be teams of 6, and you sign up as a team. One person fills it out for the whole team, and you need the team name, the people who are going to be on the team, and your contact information. And then all you have to do is show up. We're going to have ENS themed questions and then some more general questions thrown in there as well.
Yeah, that'll be super fun. It's like a inter-club trivia night, so we'll all be competing against the other clubs. And without further ado, we have our guest speakers, Patrick Lawrence and Eva Christoph. So let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. Sorry, 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay. All right, let's get started. Patrick, could you introduce yourself? Give us a little bit of background.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm Patrick Lawrence. I have been at Challenge Athletes Foundation for roughly 5 years. My path to CAF was kind of unplanned. I was working as an athletic trainer with the women's and men's sitting volleyball programs in Edmond, Oklahoma, where I grew up, went to school, and completed an athletic training program. Right after I finished my degree program, they had a position open as an athletic trainer for their resident program, which meant getting up at 5:30 every morning and going to practice, which was really exciting. But it was a really cool experience because that was kind of my introduction to adaptive sports. When someone first mentioned sitting volleyball to me, I had no idea what to think. I'd never seen it before and kind of wondered how in the world you played sitting volleyball while seated. But it turns out it's a really, as many of you have discovered, a really fun game, very dynamic and very fast, faster than traditional ambulatory volleyball. Met a lot of great people, and it became kind of a very important part of my life and my community over the past 7 years or so. I had recently have stepped away from that as an athletic trainer and really am putting all my time into Challenge Athletes Foundation. But when I moved to San Diego 6 years ago, the only person I knew in San Diego was Travis Ricks, who's our supervisor, Eva's and mine at CAF through sitting volleyball. He was on the men's team at the time. And so we started the sitting program that we play at CAF, where I don't know if any of you have played in it because we've been kind of all stuck at home for a while, but I know that you've been playing at SDSU for a while. So it's very cool that we kind of got that going, and the program was very much sustained by the Aztec Adaptive Sport Group for several years because we just didn't have a ton of people from the community who were coming out to play. So you guys have been, and your predecessors have been key in really keeping that program moving, and it's exciting to see that you are kind of participating in adaptive sport as a way of understanding better how limitless it can be. So that's kind of the short version of how I got to CAF, and I'll let Eva answer on her behalf.
Yeah, so thanks, Patrick. Hi, everyone. My name's Eva. Thank you for having us today. So my introduction to adaptive sports actually came from my cousin who has cerebral palsy, and I had the opportunity to watch him participate in a lot of different recreational sports growing up. We're pretty close in age, and so it was really interesting to me. Went off to college. I'm originally from Northern California, and I went to school back in New York to play hockey and get a degree in sport management, and got a minor in event and facility management, and wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. Like the first 2 years of college was just kind of going through the motions, getting my GEs out of the way. And then there was an adaptive sports course that was an elective that I decided to take on behalf of my cousin. Really enjoyed it. Right after that course, I ended up at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in Chicago for a summer, working for their rehab program and their adaptive sports program there, which was a total blast to live in Chicago for 3 months. Fast forward to my senior year, I ended up leaving my school to take an internship while going to college at the same exact time. It was a pretty crazy time, but I ended up at US Paralympics for about 9 months. Went back to school, graduated, and ended up at CAF right after it. So I've been with CAF for about, a year and a half now, and have had a blast ever since.
Nice, thank you. What did you do, Eva, with the US Paralympics?
Yeah, so I was an intern, which I don't know if any of you have had intern positions yet throughout college, but you kind of do a little bit of everything as an intern. I had a big hand in their veterans program there. So I was tracking all the money that was going to US Paralympians that were veterans, making sure they got their monthly, quarterly stipends. I had the opportunity to travel a bit, which was awesome. So I traveled with US Para Track and Field as well as swimming, and we had a local world meet for cycling in Colorado Springs. So just helped with, a little bit of organization on those those type of events. But I was really just the right-hand man to kind of help with anything that came up during those big world events. So it was a blast. I got to go to Germany, which was super cool because I had never been international before.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
So Patrick, can you tell us a little bit more about your role at CAF right now?
Yeah, I apologize for omitting that initially.
Oh, okay.
When I started at CAF, I started out managing our grant program. That's kind of the cornerstone of what it is that we do as an organization. Our grant program has grown by leaps and bounds, especially in the past probably 5-6 years. But we traditionally give away in the neighborhood of $2.3 to $2.5 million in grants every year to individuals with physical disabilities that want to be involved in sports and athletics. We do this through a variety of kind of pathways. We give athletic prosthetics, we give adaptive sport equipment, so basketball wheelchairs, sport wheelchairs, hand cycles, regular bicycles, pretty much anything under the sun you can think of that would help a person with a disability become more active or remove a barrier for them to participate in an adaptive sport. We can help provide through grant funding. And then a big part of our grant funding also comes in the way of travel and competition requests. So people like to, if they need additional coaching or they participate in adaptive sport festivals or competitions and tournaments, and we can help them to get there. A lot of times that's a very cost prohibitive activity for a lot of people. So we help them to do that. So I guess to bottom line the grant program, that's we try to remove the barriers that prevent people from being active when they have a disability. And then and I still oversee that program. I have one person that works kind of with me to run the day-to-day of that. I also oversee our community outreach, which is an area that much growth is needed in. And then also I work with Eva very closely on the high school adaptive sports program that I'll let her tell you more about down the road. But that was something that our supervisor, Travis, and I really kind of started getting some ideas around a few years ago and developed it into a program where we were able to get some funding that allowed us to bring Eva on, and she really runs the day-to-day of that and does so very well. So I'll let her explain more to you about that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys what your relation is at work. But it sounds like, Eva, you run the high school program. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so under the supervision of Patrick, I am running the day-to-day program with the high school sports program. So that's something that has kind of been like an idea child of Patrick and Travis, as he said, a couple years back. And I had the awesome opportunity of coming on board when it was starting to all come to fruition. So they really did the heavy lifting to get some funds and some support behind it. And I got the chance to come in and do some organization and logistics. So what the high school sports program is kind of based around is that there is a lack of awareness and a lack of participation numbers in high school sports for adaptive athletes. So for those who don't know, adaptive athletes do have the opportunity to participate for their high school sports teams. And a lot of states have opportunities that give these adaptive athletes the chance to go on and compete at like a state meet. So like, for example, the state of California has options in track and field and swimming. And so that's kind of where we span from. We got connected with the California Interscholastic Federation, which is the organization that runs all high school sports in the state of California. Got some support from them, and we were able to sit down with them and say, okay, what are we going to do to increase participation numbers for high school adaptive athletes? Because it's a pretty intimidating thing for a high school athlete, as an adaptive athlete, going and trying out for your track and field team is a little nerve-wracking. And so we wanted to give them some support, some resources, and some coaching. So what this program has done for the last year and a half or so is we've created a variety of different resources, including about 15 tutorial videos in track and field, as well as some documents that we're working on releasing right now on how to get involved.
as well as our high school adaptive sports in-person program that we ran last year in Northern California and Southern California for the sport of track. This program prepared them for that. We had a lot of great coaches come in to help coach these kids, get them fitted for equipment, get them comfortable, and they all were prepped and ready to go compete. But unfortunately, that's around the same time COVID hit, so we didn't really get the opportunity to see it all come to fruition at the state meet. So in the meantime, while we're kind of waiting this all out, we've been working on some more resources, working on keeping our high school kids involved, and fingers crossed for in-person programming in, gosh, 3-4 months or so this year, but we'll see. So it's been a blast. I love working with the kids. I feel like I'm a high schooler myself sometimes still. So it's been a ton of fun, and it's been awesome getting to watch them try a new sport, fall in love with it, and go on to do something that a lot of kids would maybe be too nervous to do and too nervous to take on.
Yeah, totally. And you think about all the athletes that compete in the normal Olympics, and they all started in at least high school or earlier. And so it's a really good thing that you guys are doing, trying to get the younger people involved. Let me see. I had a question. Forgot what it was. Oh, what is your favorite thing about your position? Either of you or both of you.
Patrick, do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I'm biased. I love to work with like the middle school, high school age. It's been super cool for me to see how sports can change the lives of not only the athlete, but of the family. We've had kids come to us over the year and a half that I've been here that have come to the track and field program and have never been in an organized sports setting at all. And they come in, they're kind of nervous, they're really shy, they're not really talking to anyone. 6 weeks go by and they are just blowing it out of the water. They've learned a new sport. They're enjoying themselves with their new friends, with coaches. And it's been really special to see that growth in an individual, not only sports wise, but, personality wise, they're able to learn some new life skills that they can take and apply to the rest of their lives. And especially at that age, it's so important to help build the confidence of these kids. And it's been really special for me to see. And the parents are always so excited about it. And so I guess that's been my favorite part so far.
Yeah, I would definitely concur with all of that. I think in the time that I've been at CAF, that's the personal connections are really the big part of it. We spend a lot of our time right here in front of a computer, like planning and putting things together and getting them ready, for these little snippets of time where we actually get to interact with the people that we're supporting. And that's where you really get a great feel for the impact for what it is that we do. We can give away $2.3 million in grant funding, but half the time it goes out the door and we don't really hear much more about it. But when we put on campus clinics and we actually are interacting with people and putting them in touch with coaches, I see AJ's on the call. He was one of the coaches for our high school program. That one-to-one, that interaction is really transformational for people. And one of the cool things that we're able to do in an in-person way that we hope to get back to soon is really providing people with physical disabilities a place where they feel safe. One of the cool things about our San Diego Triathlon Challenge is, people show up and there's hundreds of people all over La Jolla Cove, and the people with disabilities aren't the ones who are being stared at and looked at, because they're amongst people who have similar afflictions or similar abilities. Those of us who are walking around ambulatory with all of our limbs are kind of the minority that weekend. So it's a really cool thing because they're in a very, very safe space and they don't often have that. And when you pair that with the opportunity to become active, to move your body, to get all the benefits what Eva said is absolutely correct. You see people grow by leaps and bounds in a variety of ways by getting involved in adaptive sports when they have a disability.
Yeah, one thing I noticed when I went to the triathlon block party, I believe it was, and at the Junior Say Out surfing event, you see these kids like run up to each other and they just see each other at every single adaptive event, and they remember each other, and they're like the best of friends, and they really bonded over this. And it's really amazing to see the connections that sports can really make between people. And even if they're not super competitive in their sport, just the opportunity to be able to be active with people like them is very rewarding to see. Just a question for me, like I'm just curious about the logistics a little bit of the high school program. How do you guys recruit your athletes, and how did you get 36 athletes to participate in your program?
It was not easy. I mean, a lot of promotion, trying to work as close as possible with our marketing department to try to get the word out. San Diego was, I wouldn't want to say it's easy to get anyone to come to anything, but we have much more of a community here in San Diego. We have a lot more athletes that we personally know. So those numbers kind of came in, and we kind of knew most of those kids, and the ones that we didn't know, it had kind of come from word of mouth. NorCal was kind of a different monster to tackle, just because we do have a branch up in NorCal, but we don't do a lot of programming up there, and we don't have as many like one-on-one connections to youth athletes in Northern California. So what I did was I reached out to a lot of people up in Northern California, PTs, OTs, California Childhood Services was a big part of it, and giving them flyers, giving them information. And what really made the difference for me was getting a couple of PTs on board and them just like shooting out all the information to all their PT friends, all their OT friends, everyone that they knew. And that's where kids started to come in. Oh, and prosthetists as well, getting in contact with some prosthetists. And so I think we had 14 or 15 up in Northern California, and almost all of those kids were new, which was super cool. I think if we had a little bit more time, just because it all came really fast. Last year, I joined CAF in May of last year, and then we were running this program by January. I think if we had a little bit more time to promote more, we could have gotten more kids. But definitely, getting in contact with those healthcare providers seemed to make the biggest difference for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'll say it because Eva was too nice to. It was a lot easier in San Diego because we have an infrastructure here. We've been here for 26 years, and people know what CAF is, and we have a much bigger database here. But she did a great job in recruiting, and that's kind of what we're finding out, that the misconception I think that a lot of people walk into this high school space with is that you're going to find the kids in the schools, and you're not, because a lot of times the coaches aren't on campus. So we've got to find the kids where kind of the most common denominator is, and that's the healthcare provider. So whether it's nurses, rehab, PTs, OTs, recreational therapists are a great referral source, and so that's kind of where they can refer this program or others out to people, because they really have the best interest of the patient in mind. They have a direct connection to them, and they want to see them do better and do more, and so they're motivated to really share this kind of stuff out.
Mm-hmm. There's a question in the chat from Naomi. She's wondering, she's interested and would love to learn more. She's wondering, what are some ways we can get involved with CAF and the CAF community outreach while being virtual?
That's a good question. We're actually tackling that ourselves. I don't have an awesome answer for you, because we had a meeting just earlier today about what are we doing moving forward. I know that there's some thought around doing some in-person programming, and the way that we will do that will probably be very regimented. We won't rely heavily on volunteers, just because of a concern for contagion and really protecting everybody as much as possible. So I think in the past we had a legion of volunteers last year, in our San Diego program, and I think Eva had quite a few up in NorCal as well. We're just not going to be able to do that this year because we really need to put best practices forward. So our volunteers are probably going to be the parents of the kids who are going to be participating in the program. That said, all of you could be advocates for the program. So if you can think of ways, kind of on that recruitment path, where you can get the word out, we're going to be probably starting to push some stuff out soon. So if you can share that with people that you know, share it with people within the community, if you know physicians or other healthcare providers, if you know people who would be eligible for it, to kind of just share that information out, that would be huge. The other part is there could be, as we move forward, some possibilities to really help out in kind of collecting. We're going to try to get some video resources together. So it may be a matter of helping to organize some things. Also, and as horrible as this may seem as an intern type task, but there's probably going to be some spreadsheet work that needs to be done, in terms of logging some results. Our hope is that we're going to get this information out to people all over the country this year, not only just within San Diego and Northern California, but to have them doing some practices at home with their local sports organizations, and then feeding results back into us to really develop this kind of nationwide community. And I think there'll be some organization possibilities there in terms of collating the results as we get those in on a week-to-week basis. So there may be some things there. We can definitely keep you posted.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely planning on staying virtual for the next little bit of time just to see what happens. But yeah, let us know of any opportunities that you guys have. We have a lot of members who might be interested. That being said, do you have any advice for any of our members that may be interested in going into a position that you guys are in now, or even any position with working with adapted athletes in general?
Shall I go, Eva? You got some thoughts?
Yeah, I do actually. I was in your guys' position just a few years ago, so it's kind of fresh in my brain. How I got to CAF was, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but networking. When I was with US Paralympics, I made sure that once or twice a week, I asked a new person to coffee. And I don't even drink coffee. Like it just, you have to make sure that you are making those connections with as many people as possible. I was lucky enough to be at such a gigantic organization where I could really reach out to anyone and find a new story, new experiences that I could learn from. But that's what helped lead me to CAF, because then when this opportunity popped up, I got an email from the US Paralympics president, and she was like, this would be perfect for you, which is super cool because she was kind of endorsing me to go for this position. And so networking was the biggest thing for me. The other thing is take the opportunities where you can get them. Little tasks, big tasks. Like, in college, you're probably going to do a lot of intern jobs that aren't super exciting, but try to find a way to learn from all of those things, and try to find a way to apply them to future skills that you're going to need in the real world when you're off at a job and you have to use various different skills that you've taken from your internship position. There's definitely opportunities out there in the adaptive sports world. I wish I could speak more to your guys' situation right now, considering COVID, because I don't entirely know what the intern world looks like right now. But whatever opportunities you guys can get, I would definitely recommend taking them, little, big, wherever you can get them.
Yeah, that's something that's really cool about our program, is that we work with a lot of professors, and we are in San Diego, so we have the ties to CAF. So any members who are looking to get into adaptive sports, this is a really good time to start networking. Patrick, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would start by really echoing what Eva said. I got on at CAF as really because I volunteered. I mean, I started working, doing some stuff while I was looking for work in athletic training. It wasn't anything I could really fully commit to right away, but I was volunteering, helping Travis out with stuff, and someone left, and then someone else left, and they needed someone in a pinch, and it's like, hey, you want to work part-time? yeah, sure, why not? I'll make some money. And then it rolled into a full-time job, and here I am 6 years later. So yeah, there's, get those contacts, make contacts, volunteer, put your time in. My son's 21 and my daughter is 17. I'm always telling them, like, get out there, meet people. If there's stuff that you want to try to do, just dip a toe in the water and try it. Because if you can get some experience and you show that you're a good worker and you've got good work ethic and you get what the mission is, then there's always possibilities there. But you really have to kind of get out there and try to do it. Professionally, in terms of kind of what your educational path is, around the country, there's a variety of people who are leading these sports organizations. A lot of them are recreational therapists, as I mentioned before, and they are rec therapy. I don't know how many of you are familiar with rec therapy. It's not quite as popular as OTPT, speech language pathology, but rec therapists do a lot of cool stuff, and they really are some of the best advocates for adaptive sport. Some of the leaders in the space are rec therapists. And so that's a good path to go. Obviously, if you're involved in OTPT, kinesiology, those are all great fields to go into. I'm guessing several of you probably are kinesiology, maybe pre-PT. Those are all good. The other side of that too is that I love it personally when we have OTPT students, rec therapy students come out and do camps and clinics, because we've added an advocate. Because when someone comes out and they see how cool adaptive sport world is, they really get hooked instantly about the community that gets created around it. And that's one of the biggest selling points behind adaptive sport. It really is the community with it. Sports is great and everyone likes to be active and do stuff, but really it's the community that is built around that is the secret sauce. And if you can get tapped into that, even by volunteering once you're done with school, there could be some future possibilities there for you.
Awesome. Thank you for your advice. Do you see adaptive sports as a field that's going to grow a lot in the future? Or what do you think the future of adaptive sports looks like?
Where did Eva go? Did we lose her?
I'm right here.
Oh, there you are. You moved on my screen. Sorry. I'll go since I'm already talking. So I think there's a future there. The challenge with adaptive sport is that we, especially in America, we're very sports centric. We're saturated with sport, and it's tough to get eyes on adaptive sport. It's great that NBC has started dedicating more and more time to the Paralympics, but you get like a good dose every 4 years, and then it's off people's radar for the next 3.5 until it rolls around again. With the Olympics, Paralympics coming to Los Angeles in 2028, I think it's inevitable that there's going to be more growth in that area. We're seeing it more in terms of organizations that want to work with us, because it's going to be on people's radar in terms of representation. And something to think about with adaptive sport is that it's really a vehicle for social change, and we hope that it continues to be so, where people with disabilities are seen in a more positive light. They're not seen as individuals who are less than, and we're going to have to rely on corporate America to help drive that, because that's where the dollars are going to come from. Most of our funding really is through individual donations and people who are very dedicated fundraisers, but we do have an element of what we do that's funded by corporations and organizations. That's going to need to grow, though, for adaptive sport to really grow. And then the other thing that really needs to take place is more coordination. There's a lot of disparate groups all over the country that are doing great things, but we're not always doing them in a collective and focused manner. And I think it's moving in that direction. And as it does, I think overall adaptive sport will grow.
Eva, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Patrick covered that pretty well. With 2028 coming up, you definitely are starting to see a bigger push for some more some more hype around the Paralympic side of things. I don't know if any of you guys remember, the games a couple years ago, but I follow LA 2028 on social media, and there's a lot of spokespeople for those games that are Paralympic athletes, which is not something you would have really seen 8 to 10 years ago or so. And so it's been really cool to watch how much of a bigger hype there is for these upcoming games. But I do agree with Patrick. There needs to be some more collective working together with everyone to kind of help it to continue to grow. But especially with the games coming up, I think there are opportunities for career-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you guys watched Rising Phoenix yet? Yeah, that really opened my eyes to the Paralympics in general. I didn't know that so many people attended in Rio, and I thought it was amazing. And I think it's going to just continue to grow and create more job opportunities in the field and things like that. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Anything that's come up?
I mean, I put up a question in the chat box. I'm not sure. But I could just ask it since I'm talking. So, since you guys say you guys like athletes you guys recruited, do you know if they're like training and like on their own, or if they're like coming in to train with you guys or something like that?
Yeah, so the bulk of the people that we support through the organization are training kind of on their own or in the cities in which they live. We actually, for being Challenge Athletes Foundation, we don't see a lot of people in the building. We're set up, we have a gym there, but people really don't use it. They have in the past, but our function really is enabling other people to train and do the things they need to do where they are, either through the resources we can provide or through grant funding or various other means of support, connecting them with people in their community that can help them to get better at what it is that they like to do. So yeah, the bulk of our support does happen kind of remotely, except in the times in which we do host camps, clinics, things like that, either in San Diego or one of our other regions where we have individuals living in that area and trying to develop that region. We, in addition to San Diego, we have an office in Idaho, in Boise. We have one up in Northern California that Eva alluded to, and then also in the Northeast, kind of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area. And so those are all areas for more fundraising development, but they're also areas in which we've seen the need to really start creating more programming, because while people like to give money to CAF, they want to see it stay in their community and not necessarily leave New York, San Francisco to come to San Diego. So there's some upcoming areas for development, but yeah, most of what we do, people are training where it is that they live.
I did think of a question. So I'm a nursing major here at SDSU. I don't know what a rec therapist is. Could you tell me what that is? Yeah, in kind of roundabout terms. So recreational therapy is it's a little newer discipline amongst those that are kind of in a traditional rehab setting, but I've worked with several in the past. I worked in mental health for several years, and so I met a lot through mental health work. It's basically using recreation activity in a way that's therapeutic. That's really an oversimplification, but in the way that a physical therapist is going to work on gross motor skills and ambulation, and an OT is going to work on more activities of daily living and really adapting to a disability. A rec therapist is going to really come up with more sport, recreational type of activities to help engage someone to either have better physical or mental health. So that's kind of in a nutshell what rec therapy is. That's really cool. I can see that being a big profession in the future, especially because my perspective is more from like a hospital setting. So I think it'd be really helpful for patients to have a rec therapist to come visit them in the hospital. So Patrick, if I understand correctly, you were kind of involved with the creation of the adapted athletics program here at SDSU. Is that correct? It would be in a very loose sense, yeah. I mean, okay. Akil was good about picking our brains, in terms of what he wanted to do.
And it was really exciting. And that was kind of, I think, a follow-up to what this group is, because the Aztec I'm getting my acronyms messed up because they're so similar.
Yeah.
The student organization was started. You guys probably know the history, but Dr. Domingo and Kathy McCarty Baker, who's I think at Oregon State now, they started it. Akil came in right after Rio and started taking classes, and he got super excited about it, and it really started to take off from there. And that was right around the time that Kathy was going to Oregon State to start on her postgraduate work. But then from that, I know Akil kind of looked around and was saying, why are there not opportunities, for collegiate athletics for people with disabilities? And he really started driving that. So we had multiple conversations about it. He really leaned on us for our knowledge of kind of the bigger world of adaptive sports. He obviously had been in it, being a Paralympian, but I think in a little bit more focused sense, kind of that track and field area and kind of what he knew. But we've tried to be a good counselor, a good friend, and a good partner in terms of providing our knowledge, our resources. We've always told him he can send his athletes over to us if they need anything, and we're happy to help out. So we've funded some grants and some things to help out with Aztec adapted students. And but it's been a good relationship, and one that we hope will really grow. And I know I mentioned AJ earlier, but the structure that Akil has and Keith have put around all of this, and the team that you guys have in that program is really impressive. To have the strength and conditioning and the nutrition resources, the coaches that you have is really awesome for a collegiate adaptive sports program. So you're doing a lot of things the right way, and I encourage all of you to get involved with that in all capacities that you can, because it's going to be a great kind of a learning opportunity for you as you're going through your undergraduate work.
Awesome, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap up here?
Kelly put some questions in the chat.
I don't know why I'm not getting notifications. Let me check it though.
Also have a question.
Yeah.
I can ask it. Are there any upcoming events that CAF is doing that we could get involved in, like the triathlon, anything like that, coming up soon?
Probably not soon. I don't think we will do anything in a big way in person for the next 6 months, at least. I think we're hopeful that we will be able to have our kind of our big signature event, a triathlon challenge, next October. I know we have a permit for it, so that's a good start. But we, it's all dependent upon what the environment will allow. And so that I would just encourage all of you to just keep checking back with us. We love having you guys out to help volunteer with things. It's great for us because as a nonprofit, if we don't have good volunteers, we're sunk. We rely heavily on having good people to work with us to help do the things that we do and support our mission. And it's a great experience for all of you to really kind of just be immersed in that world for a while. It's definitely a life changer.
Kelly asked in the chat, are most of the athletes younger, or is there a large range of ages?
It ranges for sure. When looking at grants, I think, Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought last year our youngest was 4 years old and our oldest was 92, 96 or so, somewhere up there. So it totally ranges. For me in particular, I work with the middle school and high school age group. But when it comes to grants, it is all over the board, all over the US, all over the world. So it definitely varies.
I have another question. Following up with what Anna asked, how can we stay connected to you guys? Or should we follow you guys on social media, or should we keep in touch with Akil? We're still going to be working with him so we can know what are upcoming volunteer opportunities in a sense.
Yeah, I would say definitely follow the social media accounts. That'll make our marketing team very happy. You can also, if any of you have questions, if you want to just get in touch, you can email Eva or I can put our emails in the chat. And then two, probably just a central point, I can let Akil know if we have stuff coming up. We can email Madeline and let her know. But as things arise, yeah, we would definitely love to have you get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I can be a, just lost the word in my brain. A middleman between you guys. I can, if you want to let me know, I can let everybody else know. Kyle is wondering, I'm a nutrition major who's interested in sports nutrition. Is there any specifics that your organization does to help with the athletes' diets? Do you have dietitians that help out or volunteers?
In a loose sense, every now and then we do. When we do some camps and clinics, we will throw a nutritional aspect in there, but not on a larger scale. Yeah, it's been a little bit of piecemeal and usually sport dependent. And we do typically our roots are in triathlon, so we usually do 1 or 2 triathlon camps every year, and there'll always be an element of that is nutrition based. Our cycling, we have a virtual and in-person cycling club, and I know one of our coaches just put out an article on nutrition as well. So it's something we do get into a little bit. That is an area in terms of resource development I think we could be doing more in, because there's a kind of a need to have a little bit more specific lane for people who do have disabilities. Their energy needs are different, especially with people who use a wheelchair for their sport. So there's definitely a need there.
Yeah, and if you're majoring in nutrition as well, there outside CIF, there are other opportunities to work with adaptive athletes in that realm. Just from my experience with US Para, every team had their own nutritionists. There were nutritionists on hand at the USOPC all the time. People worked in the kitchen. There were cooking classes all the time for the athletes that lived there. There definitely were opportunities. So I would say if you wanted to work like full time with adaptive athletes in that sense, you're probably looking at a little bit more of a higher caliber of athletes rather than recreational. That's just my 2 cents. So Patrick, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd agree. In my time with sitting volleyball, we had an outstanding dietitian who lives actually in San Diego. So she worked with not only our team, but she also worked with paratriathlon and I want to say maybe wheelchair basketball. So they generally are employed by USOPC, and then they work with a variety of different teams, and they just kind of figure out the times to go to their camps and help support them. But then they're also not necessarily on call, but they're at least a resource for the teams to kind of touch base with. I know Jackie that works with our women's national team. I see on Instagram, they still do cooking classes once a month where they're doing it now by Zoom instead of in person at camps. And so it's a really cool element. And it helps too for the athlete on an educational sense because they don't always know. I mean, I was appalled at the things I would find when I'd go in and do treatments in our athletes' rooms. Some of them look like a 7-Eleven, and it's, I have to report that back to Jackie, and we had to have a little corrective discussion around it. But it's a great field, and there is no less scrutiny on nutrition at the Paralympic level than there is at the Olympic level, and you still have to fuel appropriately if you want to be the best in the world, and Paralympians are that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle says, awesome, thank you. Justin said, out of curiosity, what sport did the 90-year-old participate in?
Was that Albert?
Oh, he was one of Nico's athletes.
Yeah.
So this particular athlete is an Operation Rebound athlete. So that means he's a veteran. We have a branch of CIF called Operation Rebound that works with veterans and first responders, so paramedics, firefighters, and police officers. I don't know if he was like strict to one sport. I know he did some cycling. Because I know he did the cycling event at SDTC last year.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he was like strict to one sport, and I don't know what he grew up doing, but all I know is that he's stayed very active. He's an amputee, below the knee amputee. Yeah. And I think he just like he just found us like a few years ago, which is super cool. And he's been gung-ho for it ever since, as far as I know.
I think I'm remembering, and this is probably coloring outside the lines a little bit, but Nico can do that because he has his own department. But I think he actually gave Albert a grant to go to a race car driving school. And so Albert got to get in like a NASCAR car or something like that and go really fast and was just pumped by it. So I think it was a little bit of a gray area in terms of sports activity, but I suppose NASCAR is a sport, so it works.
Yeah,
but and actually Nico arranged for a vintage, like a World War II plane to fly over SDTC while Albert was on the stage at our Tour de Cove event, which was very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. If any of you want to learn more about Operation Rebound, Nico loves talking and he's quite a character. So feel free to contact.
I was actually wondering if you do any work with veterans because my clinical this semester is at the VA hospital. So it could be a really cool resource to let the veterans know about if they're
definitely. He loves the
right. Does anyone have any other questions before we wrap up? I want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered.
I just had one, and this is more towards COVID. So since you guys it looks like you guys are at home, this is more of a just fun question. What are some things that you've been doing at home to keep yourself sane?
Well, Patrick and I both come from like programming mindsets. Normally at this point in the year, we're traveling a lot. At least we were last year. So it's been different for sure. I think something that's really helped me is staying connected with our community as much as possible. I also coach sled hockey for the San Diego Sled Hockey Ducks team. And so we have like weekly Zoom meetings with the little kids and it's all crazy and it helps keep me connected to the community there. Outside of work stuff, I play with my dog a lot, which helps.
My gosh, sled hockey? That's so cool.
Yeah, if any of you ever want to get in a sled, one day when it's safe, it's a blast. I'm terrible at it. I was a college hockey player and I tried to get in a sled like once and I just spent the whole time laying on the ice. It's a completely different sport.
Yeah, it's like sitting on one ice skate.
Yeah, and for me, I think home gym and lots of Peloton classes to retain my sanity. I'm used to between volleyball and CAF, I was traveling probably a third to 40% of my year, and that all came to a screeching halt. So it's been good though, because I've spent way more time with my family, which was needed. But I do miss getting out and seeing people at events and really connecting with the athletes. Once you've done it for a couple of years, you kind of have a circuit and you get used to seeing the same people every year and they're growing bigger and bigger. The little ones are, and people are doing amazing things, and missing that connection point has been challenging this year for sure.
Yeah. Okay, we're at 2:00. General members, I have an announcement I forgot to make before. So if you guys want to stay on, and Patrick and Eva can head off, and thank you so much for coming. We really appreciated it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. If you guys ever need anything, or if you want to chat like one-on-one about careers in adaptive sports, feel free to reach out. I think we both put our contact information in the chat. And yes. Madeline, you should have it as well, right?
Yeah, I have it. I can also send it out. We can send it out in the email to everyone after, if that's okay with you too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Call us for anything. We're happy to help. You've all been drafted as CAF advocates now, so go spread the word.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, you. Everyone.
Stay safe.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Woohoo.
So that went well. That was fun. What did you guys think?
Very informative. I like that.
Yeah.
Opportunities.
Yeah, it was a different side of the adaptive sports movement, which was really interesting to hear about. All right, so my announcement is that unfortunately, our former president, Peter, had to resign due to personal reasons. So I was the vice president, so I am now the president. And we have asked Jushin to come on as our new vice president. So there's just a little bit of change in leadership. So if you have any questions, like, I don't know if Tony is still here, is she? Where are you? Oh yeah, hi Tony. Yeah, so you can text me if you have any questions about that. I'll put my phone number in the chat. And you can always reach out through GroupMe as well if you have any questions.
Justin, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jeshin, if you don't already know. And I'm excited to be VP. Again, like Madeline said, if there's any questions you guys ever have, feel free to reach out to me. If you're not already in the GroupMe, definitely get into that, and you can direct message me there too, which is like really good. I'll always check that. But yeah, excited to be working with you guys, excited for next semester also, so yeah.
Also, I just want to add, for those that don't know, she was actually our secretary last year, but she didn't hold a position this year because she was supposed to go study abroad. And so now that has been canceled, unfortunately, but fortunately for us, we got her. So that's fun to talk about it.
I just also want to mention, while we're kind of on the topic, I will be graduating, Caroline will be graduating, Harari will be graduating this May. So we are looking for. You're graduating, Angelin?
Yeah, I'm graduating too.
Darn. Okay, so, well, this doesn't apply to you, I guess, but we're looking for people who may be interested in joining eBoard next year. So keep that in mind. And you guys have all been super awesome coming to our GBMs and supporting and participating. So we're looking at you guys.
We'll probably try to start transition like a little bit early, because a lot of the things that we did this year were different than how they usually are. So we want to introduce like things that we would normally be doing during the school year as well, just so you guys aren't like thrown into the deep end of the pool. So just like keep that in mind.
What was your question, Andrew?